Welcome to Tech Talk Nation, talking about the latest tech, industry news, and hot topics. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Visit our website at techtalknation.com.
Good evening and welcome to Tech Talk Nation. I'm your host, Matt Fitzgerald, and we have a show for you tonight. I am sure you have heard by now, but Facebook is down. Facebook has lost their connectivity, and that is one of the biggest things we have seen in tech news as of right now. They are just starting to restore service. But to get that main story out of the way for you, we got a lot coming for you today. We have things coming from Apple with some new bombshell allegations, or excuse me, Facebook. Some new cool news with Blue Origin, as well as a familiar and fun robot dog making an appearance at a halftime show. So without further ado, I am joined once again by my co-hosts here, Matt Grislow and Ryan Eastman. How are you guys doing tonight?
Brian, have we made peace? Are you well?
I am well. How are you?
All right. Well, I'm doing well.
There you go. There you go. You guys, we're have a lot to talk about on a couple articles today.
Had a heated pre-show.
We had a little bit of a heated
No,
pre-show here.
I had a heated pre-show.
Yeah. Yes.
For sure. But yeah, we're super excited to be with you today. And we have a lot of news to get into. Grislow, not sure if you want to do your social media plug before we get started today, but want to get right into it.
Yeah. Just follow us on social media. If today's proven anything, it's that you can never rely on one social media service. So we have three social media accounts across three different platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So when Facebook and Instagram fail, at least you can count on Twitter because we did post. So please follow us there to get the news and updates about when we are live, when we're going live, when we're going to be on YouTube. And then also, of course, if you're not watching live, you can check us out on the other podcast sites: Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, all those other guys. But yeah, that's it. Fitz,
There you
let's get into
go. Well, I tell you one thing, if any of those platforms have you log in with Facebook, you may have had a tough time today because today Facebook had a major outage. They were offline for about 6 hours today, around 1 o'clock Eastern time, 6 hours and counting, actually. And basically, I'll go into all of the technical details about this in a little bit, but there's not much more to talk about. Like, Facebook went offline, one of the companies that prides itself on full uptime and their architectures and all of the things they've developed, that failed today. And I don't know about you guys, but if Facebook could blow hosting a website for 6 hours at their scale, I don't think any other company uh, should feel that bad about having a little tiny bit of downtime.
Fair.
They had a rough go, as they say.
Yeah, no kidding. To me, actually, the biggest one for me, and I actually think Amazon Web Service would probably be the worst one. And that's happened. There's been AWS outages before, and not that too long ago either, the last one. But to me, actually, the biggest impact that this has, not the social media side of things, it's the Facebook sign-in side of things, right?
There
So when
you
you plug
go.
that into all of your accounts, all of your sites, whatever. Yeah, when Facebook's down, you can't use those. I totally forgot about that because it happened to me once before. And I was thinking about it today as the shutdown was, well, it's still going on. That article was posted, last updated like 2 hours ago. So that 6 hours is 8 hours and counting, or more like 2.5, an hour and a half. longer.
Thereabouts,
But still,
something like that.
It's a long time. It's like 7.5 hours. Thank you guys, Ryan. You said that Instagram's back up, so we're getting
Yeah,
back
I
up,
think I
so
checked
Facebook
that,
should
and
be
it
up
was.
shortly. But yeah, this is what happens. Be careful with what you do for sign-ins. Don't put your eggs all in this one basket. I've actually considered, and I talked to guys in the pre-show, switching to sign in with Apple for some of the other accounts that allow me to. Also, just because it has some extra added benefits with privacy on my end. But yeah, don't rely on Facebook, guys, because it could just be down.
Well,
and you wouldn't know when you could get back on.
right, and that's another thing too.
Yeah.
You mentioned like log in with Facebook and putting all that stuff there, like you're really putting your eggs in one basket. And granted, this is a very, very large anomaly. Like this shouldn't have happened. Period. That is it.
What did
Um,
happen?
so
Well, the
this is
question is why
the question is why, and we'll get to that in a little bit and some
or
theories
how.
on that. But here is my um, outside uh, outside tech expert, I guess, looking in. Somebody who's worked with very large websites, very large platforms, enterprise grade stuff. Obviously not on the Facebook level, but in terms of different services and things like that. In my opinion, what wound up happening is this. So the way that Facebook does their offers their platform is they create what are called containers. And what these are is instead of having a physical computer on a shelf, they take that computer and squish it down into a image. They squish it down into like a disk basically of all of the operating system, all the files, all of that stuff. But then they take it one step further and they say, okay, we're going to take a specific part of the application and put it on its own computer. So we're going to take like an email service or a login service or a like a post ingesting service, and we're going to put all of those on different computers and different little systems that we can replace as times go on. The problem with that becomes networking, because that service now needs to talk to the other service and needs to talk to the other service, and so on and so on and so on. So if your networking goes down, you are dead in the water. You have no clue how you can get X traffic to X computer to do X thing. So my thought is that there's something with the way that they resolve the names that would cause this issue to go up, because
Hmm.
I doubt they would code in the address for every single other thing this has to talk to. It probably goes into a pool and then gets chosen which one of these computers it goes to. So
Hmm.
that's my thought.
I mean, yeah. I don't know much about how Facebook's actual structure works. It sounds way since you're describing it that way, like it's all very compartmentalized. So
Containerized.
I would, yeah, sure,
Contained.
yeah.
There you go. That's the technical term,
Sure.
containerized.
I'm using the general term,
There you go.
but yeah,
And I have no knowledge of any terms.
I have approximate
This just
knowledge
is
of
not my
many
wheelhouse.
So yeah, I'd expect one thing to go down, not it all to go down.
Right. And even though that's just a layer of the onion there, like
Yeah,
a layer of what's going on within their infrastructure. So,
yeah. So like that's not a bad theory because I mean you would expect one thing to go down, not all of it to go down at once, if it's all
right.
just separate.
And I feel my heart goes out to all those engineers who are working overtime right now.
Those poor
Those poor
souls.
people
Jeez.
just trying to get everything fixed and working their tails off to get all the Karens back on Facebook. So here we are today. But anyway, Facebook they've had a rough week, in my opinion, because I'm not sure if you guys saw the interview. I unfortunately did not. But
I've seen
last
chunks.
there you go.
I've
Yeah.
seen bits and pieces.
But for all of those who haven't seen it, last night on 60 Minutes, there was an interviewer with the whistleblower of Facebook who shared a lot of confidential documents with the media. Her name is, excuse me, I forget. I forget her name. Frances. Yeah, Frances Haugen. So here's the article here. Um, Basically, she had a sit down interview on 60 Minutes and went over all of the I don't want to say all of the less savory sides of Facebook. And this article written by Gizmodo is pretty biased, as a lot of the tech world is about Facebook. However, it did have some very interesting facts in it, and thank you to Grislow, I believe, for sending in this article. Um,
Yep.
the a couple of things that I found interesting that were also we kind of predicted almost on Tech Talk Nation a while back is a couple of the facts. It said the algorithm picks articles that will get you riled up and angry whenever you go on Facebook, because that drives engagement, which drives ad revenue. They basically say that they dissolved the civic integrity unit of Facebook right before the insurrection. And
After the election.
after the election, correct. After
Yeah.
the election, before the insurrection. And basically they're saying that the amount of hate and misinformation that they actually identify on the platform is a lot lower than Facebook actually claims. In addition, they talk about the article that we talked about, actually, about some of the data with Instagram and some of the internal studies there. One of the things that it did mention in addition is it says 17% of teenage girls that were surveyed said it made their eating disorders worse. And that was a fact that I don't think we covered on the last episode. And the article goes on a little bit more to discuss how the people at Facebook aren't evil per se, but their motivations are skewed because they have to drive a platform to do all of the do a platform to drive all sorts of issue with the wow, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, they have a platform.
Well, they got to drive it to make money.
Exactly. They have to drive a platform to make money, and by doing that, it's to make people angry. So there you go. You got me back on track there.
Well,
yeah.
So
we are putting the cart before the horse with that, though.
How so?
It's not that they're trying to make people angry. It's that that's the content that's getting engagement. They're trying to drive engagement, nothing else.
Well, the engagement is what drives clicks, and that's the avalanche of events that gets them money because that gets them ad revenue.
Right.
I will counter with that from one thing I did hear. They specifically for, I believe, COVID content related, or anything. They have a scale and they rate it based off of like a variable they've created. That is the score. That is essentially like how mad will it get people, or how much essentially how much engagement they're going to get, and they base a lot of how they run the site based off of the content and one example, that variable, and how that relates to you as an individual, and how likely you are going to be to react negatively to that article. So they are.
Sure, but at the same time, they have a separate factor. This was in a different whistleblower report from somewhere else, where they have vaccine hesitancy ratings.
Yeah.
And they
okay. Maybe that's. I think that's what I meant to say.
Well, this is different because they'd
about.
suppress posts that are high in vaccine hesitancy rating.
It might be the flip then for getting people to react when it comes to anything but vaccines.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised.
Think about excuse me, think about the things that would get you mad. Like people are just generally awful, or some guy protesting something that you don't agree with, that would get you mad. So that drives the engagement because that person's going to now get mad, go into that post and leave a comment, thereby driving more time on their website, more ability to see ads, more money in Facebook's pocket, and therefore you have this vicious cycle.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
but this came before the algorithm. The algorithm responded to what people were engaging with and served them more of it. That's how this whole thing started.
Yeah, but I mean, I just want to interject quickly.
The algorithm's a neutral moral actor. It doesn't make moral judgments. It's sitting there serving people what they engage with.
Right. But
interesting.
There's no way, and I have an example. There's no way, a bad example. There's no way that it's completely autonomous or AI based. Example, other big company. Okay, other big company, YouTube. Creators have complained for years now that the algorithm just does not work, or it's not effective for how they want or how they need it to be successful creators. And essentially they allege constantly that the algorithm serves people content it thinks will be more effective rather than what they would really want to see. sometimes that happens, but they allege it's not often the case. The creators have, lashed back at Google, YouTube several times, and they've gone in and they've intervened. So to say that there's no way that Facebook doesn't have some sort of oversight advisory board for this, I that there's no way. That's
Well,
I'll go
untrue.
one further. I don't think there should be an oversight. When I watched this interview and listened to her go through everything, no, take that look off your face. When I watched the interview and watched her go over everything,
You know what? Actually, you're getting
Her
sassy with me.
biggest
I'm not gonna take that
yeah,
look
yeah.
off my face.
yeah, go for it. It's a free world, and that's the point that I'm driving at.
Okay.
When I watched the interview and watched how she reacted to a lot of the things, her anger seemed to be expressly over Facebook not intervening in a bunch of stuff. Right? To me, it seemed like she was angry that this platform wasn't acting like a platform.
so
It wasn't more
It was acting neutrally. It wasn't
Suppressive.
active. It wasn't active. It was neutral.
interesting.
That
So
was my big takeaway from watching it, which was interesting because there's been a ton of whistleblowers that have shown up around Facebook, and this was one of like the first big ones that had that kind of vibe. Most of the other vibes were Facebook's like doing this, they're trying to intervene here, here, here in people's lives. This was the first one I've ever seen where it was like, no, Facebook's not doing enough. I want them to intervene more and control more.
There
But that's
definitely was a sort of underlying like agenda that the whistleblower had, that was very apparent in the interview, at least the videos I saw. But still, I mean, there's no way there's not already an advisory board for content.
right, and
I just don't believe that.
I am taking a little bit
That
different
doesn't
track.
supervise the algorithm, because like my example of YouTube, it's not just of creators whose content just wasn't getting pushed because the algorithm was being stupid. It was also from people who'd reach out and say, hey, YouTube kids,
Sure.
you're recommending unsaved content to my kids. What are you doing? And so they had to step in. We talked about it, I believe, last week. They had to step in and change things.
Sure. But as a note, that was something that changed, and that's something that actually took a chunk out of Google's revenue when they did that. This change happened about the time that Susan Wojcicki took over as I want to say CEO of Google. And in one of her first big like speeches to the company, she basically said, we're done being this neutral. If it gets engagement, we're going to send it forward in the algorithm. We're going to take a much more active role in controlling what we let get to trending, what we recommend people, and all that.
so
That was one of her big pushes there, and it did hurt their revenue. So I'm not surprised that maybe other people said, oh, we don't want to take that track.
Here's my thought on that. So let's take YouTube for an example. I think the YouTube algorithm is very flawed, personally. It
I agree.
it favors like 10 to 15-minute videos on kind of like oddity subjects and or uncommon things. So you get all of these you get copy and pasted videos basically. They're all following the same format. They
Allison
all
the Green Knife versus
exactly. Or same thing with TikTok, the challenge culture, where these videos where people are doing these challenges are getting pushed, they're getting a lot of views, they're getting popular. Is TikTok moving that along? Same thing with Facebook. All of these things of people doing stupid things that make you angry, are they moving that along? And I feel like all of these different platforms, in my opinion, aren't reacting the same way to that. Google is just like, well, apparently this is the new style that people want. Facebook is adamantly like, no, we don't do that. Like, hey, we're trying to keep a safe and clean place for you and making sure you see the things that are most important to you. So in my opinion, that's much more misleading than Google being like, hey, this is the way that the content has been trending, so this is what the algorithm has been picking up on. So I guess my point per se is, you both say that there should be oversight on an algorithm or there shouldn't be
No.
oversight on an algorithm. In my
Yes.
opinion, there needs to be a happy medium where not necessarily they say this is the way it is, that's how it needs to be, but one of those things where they notice a dangerous trend starting to happen, to have the moral judgment to be like, hey, this isn't good. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
a 10 to 15-minute video on YouTube with a 1,000-degree knife challenge is harmful to society in the way that having somebody from a political party you don't disagree with trying to force their morals on you on Facebook would be.
I guess at the end of the day, my hope is that, yeah, let's automate some of this stuff. Like let's not have, I mean, plenty of companies are hiring right now. Tons of openings of jobs. But these processes, a lot of processes can be automated, and you don't need people to have an oversight board if you have a good algorithm. The problem is, and I think there is a point you're making, is that the problem is when the decisions that drive the creation of the AI lead it down paths that either feature unintended consequences or it starts operating in ways you didn't intend.
Okay,
interesting.
interesting.
So I guess with my specific example with YouTube, right? Once they saw that the changes they made and the decisions they made on how they taught and created this AI were starting to harm their user base, they made changes.
Except it made the platform worse, not better. That's how we got to where we are now, is them trying to do that.
Well, my here is still that they took action because they realized what they did led to bad unintended consequences. Not that would leave a bad PR taste. I mean, it's a genuine problem. Privacy of data is one thing. Harm to kids is a completely other thing. And I truthfully think the law probably puts that higher than privacy. And I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying I would say it's more likely. That's an interesting situation in and of itself. The Facebook side of things is they not only did they create these AI with malicious intent, they also are fully aware and accepting of that and are lying to the users. I'd like to think they have an oversight board, because if a company like Google has one, I would hope Facebook does, and I think that they should, once they see and are good about things, right? A good ethical committee or whatever. And I guess maybe it's wishful thinking, but you'd hope they would, in simple terms, do better.
Interesting.
You keep saying malicious intent. It's not intent. The problem is, how do you save someone from themselves?
Malicious. Hold on. Can you explain the malicious intent?
Sure, that's the phrase you used just now. Like, their intent was to serve people up stuff that makes them angry, I think, is what we're talking about in this context.
Yes, and that's
not
true.
their intent. Their intent was to get engagement. The algorithm looked at Facebook, said, this is what people are engaging with, so this is what we're going to keep serving them.
But Ryan, that again, I think we talked about this early in the pre-show.
No. You're being consequentialist about this, not deontological.
Okay.
All right? You're only concerned with the consequences, not the process.
Right. But to get to the point where they're starting to have issues, there had to be an impetus for that. And the impetus was the malintent that led to the creation of rules.
That's not malintent.
To the creation of the AI. That's intent. They had an intention. If you're going to argue about definitions of words
not
with
intent.
Me, okay, bad intentions. I don't know if I'm using
that's what malintent means. We're using the same word.
I don't want to argue semantics of words you can look up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary.
No, we're not arguing semantics. We're arguing about morals right now, technically, and you're ascribing morality to things that aren't moral intentions. It wasn't a moral intention. It wasn't a bad intention. It's an intention.
I would like to just clarify my position. I'll say it once more.
Sure.
And if I will try to make it as clear as possible and explain it thoroughly. If that does not make sense, I'm not sure.
It is making sense. I'm trying to explain to you that you're poisoning the well.
I think here's in my opinion what you guys are differing with. What Ryan is saying is they the algorithm was programmed in a very specific way to do a specific thing. That thing
Yes.
was down the wrong path. What Grislow, what you're arguing is once they saw it going down that wrong path, they should have intercepted and worked with it
So
it changed it to be a different way. So I think
not yes and no. Yes and no. Those are two different arguments I'm having. I'm not sure if we're arguing maybe the same thing here.
interesting.
Let me try. Let me try. If that doesn't work, we should move on because it's a lot of back and forth here, and it's not going anywhere. It's not productive. Okay.
Just for me.
Okay. So we'll take the Facebook example, right? They knew that in order to get more engagement, which leads to more ad revenue and money in their pockets, they knew that they had to keep serving or start serving up more fiery content to the user such that it would keep them engaged and put them in a cycle of engagement because they would always be enraged and mad or upset about something, which would lead to that engagement we're talking about. That leads to because they're there, they're seeing more ads, which is paying the bills and making Facebook money. They had an intention there. Their bad intention was, I'm going to serve users bad content. That in and of itself leads to the engagement, because the solution to how do we get the ad revenue is drive up engagement. And how do you drive up engagement? You serve bad content, because that's what the research shows. Now,
You stumbled at the first block, though.
I was going to ask, is there any part of that that does not make sense?
Yes.
Or is not what both you and I are saying? Because to
That
me,
is not-
you and I
there's-
are at different portions of the side of how everything goes here.
Yes, your
And
first.
I'm not quite sure if you're
To me,
gonna
it's that
get
first
into that.
block you took where you stumbled. To me, it's the
Okay,
part where
explain.
you ascribed intent to the algorithm in the first place.
Yes.
You have this inverted. They created an algorithm to look at what users are engaging with and serve them more of it. That's what the algorithm does. So people were engaging with negative content, so it continued to serve them more negative content. That's how this process happened. You're putting the cart before the horse. Now you're arguing from a view of consequences. You care about what the consequences are, how this ended up being. I'm arguing from a point of having a fair process and letting people take responsibility for their own things. That's where we're differing here.
And I agree with that, definitely. And I think that we could go on all night about this one right here. But I think that in the long run, we should really work towards holding a lot of these companies morally accountable for the problems that their products or their solutions cause, whether or not they intended those consequences to happen. I do think that in the long term, you should at least have something coming off of that, whether good or bad. But speaking of bad, the next article we have is has been called, quote, a privacy nightmare on wheels by a couple of different reviewers. And this is Amazon's Astro. It is a home surveillance robot embedded with Alexa that is made by Amazon that roams around your house and protects people, I guess. So it's an interesting concept. And but it's people are just saying it's like a rolling data collection device. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah.
It looks creepy.
Yeah.
You're completely right. I mean, here, let me pull this up. But yeah, this thing just looks creepy.
I think it's important to talk about this in terms of specifics, because I think on this show we tend to get very, even if not heated, very concerned with a question of is it morally okay? I think especially for this example, let's talk about the specifics about what's going on before getting, our own opinions in, because I think it's important.
For
And
sure.
because
Well,
this specific product, I think, presents more problems than in terms of privacy without putting in your own opinion of user privacy versus experience, that most products or other previous products that Amazon or most other companies have had before, or companies like Amazon, have ever had.
right. And the thing I was just trying to find a passage that I found really interesting in the article. But one of the things that people were kind of concerned about is, hey, this thing is collecting a lot of data about you, and now that it will have video, it will have autonomous movement capabilities within your house, what will that then be able to do? Obviously people are extrapolating this out way further than it needs to go, all the way to the conspiracy theories of, oh, Amazon's going to start identifying the products you have in your house and stuff like that. And kind of it's interesting to take this, but one of the specific articles that um, basically they mentioned is law enforcement can serve a warrant on Amazon, not you, to gain access to the data recorded by the devices within Amazon's control. So people are wondering, is that going to be the exact same here where this thing is mobile recording whatever it may be, and granted it may only be transmitting the data at certain times, but it still is ingesting data because the microphone is on or the camera is on or whatever.
Yeah, I'm
Who
sketched out.
knows?
Yeah.
I don't trust it.
I will say from an objective standpoint, there are a lot of ways it presents a lot of unique and new challenges, I think, for privacy in general, user privacy. The Facebook, the Amazon thing about the police you mentioned isn't new, but I think it caused a new problem, specifically with a roaming device on wheels with a camera and a microphone. That adds a lot of complexity. I think another issue with it, and this is again before my own opinion of this, is that they don't make clear on if you want to go and delete content whether that was recorded for whatever reason. It's not clear right now which company that Amazon owns, I guess, you would have to go through for that, which again presents a whole lot of challenges, if that's already a problem. Also, apparently, someone who worked at the company believes that they're not going to be ready for the rollout when this actually does come out, and that it actually has a lot of problems currently that they're either going to ignore or rush to finish if they get to.
Right, and that is one thing they mention is the cybersecurity concerns of this device, literally
Yeah.
being new to the market, completely vulnerable. But I mean, I don't want to call it completely vulnerable, but unknown. That's a better word. What the vectors for an attack would be. It's scary. Like
there's
That's sketchy.
there's a few other important things though before you can put an opinion in, and then there's two. One, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of unknowns. Who knows? Like you can say your product's really safe and it's really secure, but anything with an internet connection, unfortunately, has the opportunity to be hacked. They say you can set zones in the house where it won't fly, or I'm sorry, roll. They have a sister company product that flies. It does the same thing. But this also can be remotely controlled. And to me, that, before I put my own opinion, that could be a problem. Ryan, I'll let you go. I'll put my own opinion last,
Sure.
just because I know you're screaming to go.
Yeah. I'm not going too hard on this. It's just I don't like the idea. I don't think saying that Amazon might use it to collect some data to try and target ads is the most absurd thing I've heard. I could very well see them trying to sell you toilet paper this way. Like, oh, looks like that toilet paper. Uh, I don't like it. I wouldn't buy it personally, just because I just don't like it being able to roam around like that. That's to me super sketchy. Like
So
having a fixed camera in place that can still be hacked. That's still a risk, but you know where it's looking. The the robot can go anywhere, follow around anything, and who knows what it's doing, and who knows like who's going to hack it.
right.
Like
Hmm.
I could see a lot of like not privacy issues, but like privacy issues coming from someone hacking one of those.
Yeah.
Right. Like they left the door cracked and
Yeah, yeah, not privacy, privacy.
yeah.
Uh, it sketches me out, and yeah, ha- nothing is unhackable.
Right. So my opinion on this is I like the concept of a robotic sentinel, something that can keep an eye on things when you're not there. I just don't want Amazon to do it. I would be fine. I would be fine if I built my own system. Like I built my own camera on wheels that I know exactly how it works and I could send it around my house to do whatever I need it to do. But I don't like having a third party company that now has access to said thing to do what they want with it. So I don't
And the data's off-site.
exactly. And the data's off site too.
I would like to quickly just ask you a question because it is somewhat related to your argument here. So
Sure.
you don't want a third party device or um, technology in your house where you can be data can be taken or they can do things. I just want to clarify that
Both
because there are things like home security systems, smart or not, that a company manages, like well, I won't say that, but a family when their house gets broken into, um, or the alarm goes off for a certain period of time, that company calls you, the owner, and asks, "Hey, is everything okay?" They know if something's going on.
right. I guess
Are you okay? Are you okay with something like that? Is it like the
Non
smart devices you have a problem with, or is it any system that's not yours pertaining to security or privacy that you have a problem with?
okay. So I guess that's a really good question actually. I guess I that would rephrase my point of view a little bit. I guess
Hmm.
the so I don't have a problem with a company delivering a service that they sell me to do specifically for that. So let's say I have a contract with a security company where they monitor the home, and let's say a window sensor gets broken. Somebody's breaking in my house through a window. They have every right, because that is the service I paid them to do, to notify me, look at the camera or whatever, to see if that's actually a violent act. The thing I have a problem with is a company who says they're providing a value and then have more control over something that they shouldn't have. Let's think about going back to one of the previous articles we talked about on the show too. Think about the ice cream machines at McDonald's. I pay for I
They're
it's a
always down.
it's a good analogy in my opinion. I pay for a machine to do a job. That machine does a job. Granted, if it's treated the right way, it's doing everything the right way. Um, but it it's also sending telemetry data or whatever over to another company. I didn't sign up for that bit. I just signed up for a machine that does what I tell it to do and does it well. With something like this Astro robot here, I want it to be a sentinel. That's great and all, but how is I don't know what the company that makes the robot now has access to. It's in a way it's a fear of the unknown. When I put something in my server rack and install some software, excuse me, I know that my family photo archive will use this specific piece of software, and it will not talk to this company, and this company. It's just going to remain within my network because I'm not allowing it to even access anywhere outside. So, say like it's not the smart devices I have a problem with. It's the unknown amounts of control that third parties have that I have a problem with.
It's it's the level of trust, I think.
Yes,
It
yeah,
sounds like to
that's a
me.
good way of putting it. Yeah.
Because and the reason I say is because using that same logic, even for a very simple, let's say for example, surveillance system where there's fixed position cameras and door and window sensors, um, that company, you're paying them to do them a service. Yeah, you're not signing up for it, but that's not to say they don't already have access to it.
Right. And
So what I'm hearing from you is it's more of a level of trust. And I guess
exactly.
my follow-up question is it that you don't trust, which is it fair to say you wouldn't trust Amazon, for example, because you feel that they have made so many errors with their own handling of privacy and sensitive data? Is that like how you're informing your decision?
So let's go back to the security company analogy. So there's
Sure.
two types of security companies that you could basically work with. The one that manages and responds to incidents, and another one where you just put a backup of your security camera footage offsite. And if something happens, you now have the footage somewhere else. With that
Sure.
comes a level of trust, like you mentioned. If I put the security camera footage offsite, I trust that they won't look through the backups. If I hire them to manage and respond to security problems, I fully intend on them looking at that and doing what they need to do to deliver the service that I paid for. With something like Amazon, I know that they like their AWS is secure. Like as long as it's configured correctly, it's secured. There's the quantifier. But
Nothing's
any
unhackable.
right, good point. Reasonably
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
secure.
Mostly.
Um, but it's just some of the stuff where, for me at least, there's always an unintended consequence that comes with that. So
Sure.
let's say this robot sends out, as it's driving, it sees that I have a big ding in my black cabinet, and now all of a sudden Amazon is suggesting like those felt tip pen furniture repair things. Like, is it harmless that it saw that? Yeah, it's a ding in a cabinet. Oh, big whoop. But it's the trust that I put in them to keep that data safe and not retarget the ads directly at me. I mean, granted, that's a pretty big long shot, but same thing with voice recordings. Like, okay, we send a voice recording to Amazon when we want something to get done through Alexa. Um, they may use that recording for quality assurance or whatever. I don't trust them to use it reasonably with the identifying marks removed.
Okay.
The other thing is, I think it's the Sentinel robot itself that's a little extra sketchy. Because
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
other things, you can confine them
Yep.
to like known. You know where this is going to be. You, you know, if it gets hacked, this is what's compromised. This is where it is. That's not like as comfortable a boundary when you have this thing that moves everywhere. A
Yeah.
fixed camera, you know what areas the fixed camera can
Hmm.
see. Window sensors, door sensors, you know that that's what they sense. That thing can move around. Even if you have a smart home device, odds are it's in a specific room, and that's where its microphones can pick up sound. I think it's the
So
mobility of it that makes it a little extra iffy.
yeah, I agree. Um, I've been trying to not put an opinion in this yet, but
No,
I
shoot for
can't
it.
not. This is my time. I guess my point that I wanted to make before giving my opinion is, um, it seems like for both of you, which I think is fair for anyone, I mean myself including. I think the biggest question that we have to ask ourselves is is a technology, is a new product, is a service that you're receiving, getting, taking advantage of, owning, buying? Is that are the new cool features you get, is everything you get in return for having that product worth giving up a little bit of privacy? It's convenience and the pros of owning that, what you get to do, the features, over or against, how willing you are to give up some of your privacy. In terms of social media, at least in my opinion, with privacy, I kind of just lay it all out on the table at this point, and just, to me, I don't really care for this one specific reason. It's already, if you post anything online, it's there. Like, if they can see something, if they want to see something, they could. If it's, you post it, I don't care if it's hidden or whatever, it's there. So a lot of collecting data, at least for myself, in terms of social media, I don't really care too much if the big companies get it. I care more if people can, personal people, like, I don't know, specific people. I'm trying to not see something, in a future employer. It's things like that where you want to just keep it to your friend group or whatever. In terms of a product like this, I personally have a problem with it because of the unknown. And I think that's
That's the big one.
what I'm hearing a lot of here. And in general, what I truly believe. We talk a lot about privacy on this podcast, and it's very important to all three of us, I believe. I think.
I don't think
Correct me
anyone's
if I'm wrong
pushing
now,
back on
but
that.
I'm pretty sure it is.
No one's pushing
Um,
back on that.
But I think that we go at it sometimes in terms of our like real big emotions of something. We don't really look at what's in front of us. We speak more generally. And
think
in this
it's a lot
case,
of
I
time-
think it's, well, let me finish. And in this case, I
Sure,
think it's
sure,
more
sure.
specific, and it does bring up more questions. That's why I want to talk about the specifics before you get into your opinions. But at the end of the day, yeah, having a robot that could potentially, and you don't even know if it can go around into different areas of the house that you don't intend it to via remote control is a scary thing. They say you can set your boundaries and set no-go zones. But again, it's the customer trusting the company that the product works as intended and will function that way without unintended consequence. That unintended consequence being, something gets hacked. That's my 2 cents.
Sure. I
There
think
you
to the
go.
privacy statement, it's transparency based as well.
Right.
It's not as much like that they're collecting data, it's the lack of transparency about what they're collecting and why they're collecting it.
I suppose a deeper question would be, is it more of your uneasiness in general with privacy, companies that make products, that have services, social media, or is it specifically like this company? Because at least for me, I feel
Sure.
like there's a general distrust of privacy. I mean, we just talked about
Yeah.
Facebook having
No, I meant very, very
malintent,
generally.
and are doing
I still think that's
things
poisoning the well.
are doing things a certain way for profit.
Let's not dive back into that. No, the point I was making was just general. It's just if every company was very transparent about what they're collecting and why they're collecting it, I think there'd be a less sketchiness around all of it. But it's this lack of transparency that I think kind of digs under people's skin.
Right. Definitely. But
yeah, I mean, I think a healthy bit of skepticism is fair. But talking so much about privacy and with different companies, different product services, I do think it's important to look at them specifically. And this one presents more challenges, I personally think, than rewards or bonuses or pros.
for sure. Well, you know what's nice and fun? Memes. And this was an
We like memes.
This was fun. But anyway, this was an interesting article. Elon Musk says he's sending Jeff Bezos a silver medal and a giant statue of the number 2 after surpassing him again to become the world's richest person. I could not think of anything else that these two would do. They're not the biggest fans of each other, but that's pretty funny. Not not gonna lie. I think that's pretty funny personally. There's not much to read into here. They're both
Oh,
just
but there is.
how so?
How are you
I
reading into this?
I'm reading into this way. I don't think the spite there is not so much about the money. It's more about all the lawsuits that Bezos has been filing against SpaceX.
He's doing it out of spite. He's trying to just.
No, I think Musk is sending the number two out of spite because of the lawsuits.
Well, the
Less
lawsuits
about
are
the
in
money, more
spite
about the
of.
lawsuits.
To me, what I see in the whole Bezos v Musk
Bezos
is
v. Musk arc.
yeah, is that Musk is not only is he just he's winning in general, he's winning recently. Like when I say winning, it's not that I'm trying to pick a side here or not, even though I sort of have my own side. But it's also the fact that like he's been in this game and trying to do this for so long, so he just has way more experience than Bezos. And like Bezos is pushing things quickly, but not at the pace that he wants to. And obviously, he sees he has competition, and so out of spite, he is going to try and do anything he can to take jabs at his competitor. He literally just,
Yeah.
well, I should say, literally just 2-3 months ago, dropped his CEO position at Amazon to focus on this. This is the number one priority.
Well,
Yeah.
to focus on Blue Origin, supposedly.
I'm just saying I
Yeah,
think the two
but-
is spiteful because of the lawsuits. That's all I'm saying.
But my point is that it's a jab. It's not spite or a jab back. It's more of just putting him in his place, just because
Yeah.
he's punching above his weight class, Bezos.
Well, we will see with
Well,
that.
Musk. I was gonna
Oh.
say Musk is also a master of just like having a good public perception about himself. 'Cause,
Well,
Yes, yeah.
If you ask people how many people have a like positive image of Bezos, I don't think yet many.
for sure.
Whereas by being, the memester that he is, Musk has gotten a lot of like public sympathy his way.
Yeah. Well, I tell you
And
one
criticism
thing.
at the same time from us here and me especially. I will
Well,
say I'll go on the record
As
for
we
saying
know,
that.
Musk is a big fan of the show. That's why we tend to support him over Bezos, because Bezos
Yes.
doesn't watch the show. Be
Yes,
like
we
Elon
know.
Musk. Don't be like
Yes.
Bezos.
There you go.
We can
Well,
get that on
Watch
the
our
notes, yeah.
show.
I
Watch
tell
our show.
I tell you one thing though. I know which space company is going to be every Star Trek fan's favorite by far. And that is going to be Blue Origin, in my opinion, because they are bringing along William Shatner, the infamous Captain Kirk, on the New Shepard 18 mission, along with the president of Mission and Flight Operations at Blue Origin. Her name is Audrey Powers. Excuse me for that. But yeah, the notable person on this flight is the man who played Captain James T. Kirk in 1966 for Star Trek, William Shatner. I think it's interesting. I also found out on the news today he is 90 years old. Yes.
He does not look 90.
Yes.
Wow. He aged like a fine wine. Wow.
Just on the Star Trek front, right? All right. First goes Cisco, and then it goes Picard, and then you have Kirk there in like third place. All right.
All right.
That's a hot take.
I'm not a huge Star Trek guy, but all I know is Captain Kirk.
That's a hot take among Star Trek people. Most people like Picard. I think
I'm not a
Cisco's the
Trekkie
ultimate
either.
Chad.
But I mean,
let me just flex my nerd creds real quick.
I mean,
I got one question though. I guess two questions. One, when was this flight planned? We just talked about the two of them kind of exchanging jabs and either in jest or trying to file suits. SpaceX just came back with a capsule successfully after a 3-day orbit of the planet, doing all kinds of studies as well up there. That was more impactful and meaningful than quite literally anything that Blue Origin has done, even this year, and that includes its one flight that did not orbit the planet and was not nearly as impactful as SpaceX's. So my two questions are: how recently was this scheduled? And also, is this going to be a new trend of the two companies going back at each other, trying to get star power and celebrities to fly their missions to try and boost in their company in terms of stock prices, in terms of public sentiment? Because
I
this
think-
does, like, why? I guess, like, of course, Captain Kirk, right? But my next question is like, okay, are they going to ask, George Lucas or, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, to go and fly on the next Crew Dragon mission?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's an interesting point, actually. It seems to me, at least, that I don't know, SpaceX might have won that round too, because at least speaking for me, I don't know anyone who at least anyone in the younger kind of age groups who still kind of cares about Star Trek. It's fallen to the wayside really, really heavily. I don't think any of the new Star Trek properties have really landed with really wide fan bases the way the originals did. Whereas I think maybe having that scientific mission on SpaceX might have garnered more public attention, just because, I mean, I don't know anyone in our age group who has even watched the old Star Treks, other than me, I guess. But whatever.
Needless to mention, too, the stuff with SpaceX was, number one, raising money for charity, and number two, another mission was really to get women into STEM majors and interested in space and all that stuff too. That was one of the really, really big pushes on that. I don't know. I think that in this specific case, I think that Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin are trying to appeal to another market. Maybe the people who are interested in sci-fi, but not necessarily the realities of space. I think it's pretty cool to get William Shatner up there with some of the other engineers and some of the people who are working on the project as well. Just number one is being an older gentleman getting up there, I supposedly setting a record for the oldest guy in space, and also just like kind of I don't want to say like fulfilling the sci-fi thing, but kind of like, hey, I'm a sci-fi actor who actually went to space. Like, that, talk about method acting. I don't know. So
Maybe you haven't seen some of his more recent work, where he basically has his own History Channel show that's kind of, I don't, Ancient Aliens would be an unfair comparison for it, but it's basically, it's a history show channel called The Unexplained or something.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
interesting.
not the most scientific thing.
Yeah,
Never mind.
yeah. I just find it funny that the follow-up to SpaceX just sent 3 or 4, whatever it was, people, I think it was 4 or 5, people up to
4.
space. They orbited the Earth and did experiments. What's the best follow-up to that we can come back at? We're going to send the oldest, one of the most famous, recognizable people up into space. Oh yeah, he was also in sci-fi movies. So this is coming full circle.
True.
I
feel
bring it back to this stupid pissing match that the two seem to be having, just because it's so close. They just finished the documentary, and I believe it came out last week, and this is happening tomorrow. To me, there's no added value that this brings. I know that's kind of their goal, is to bring more people into space, but I know has more higher ambitions than Richard Branson, whose sole mission, it seems, or main mission currently, is more of a tourism route. Yeah. I mean, Bezos was fighting for government contracts and lost to SpaceX. Elon Musk. So he's already mad. And trying to compete. My question is this really like a competitive move? Is this strategic? Is this just them? Is this just them further proving their concept and their technology, considering they've only had one test so far where they've sent people to space? I don't know.
Oh my
But to
gosh!
me, this
Imagine
doesn't
if they
really
killed
further their
William
agenda
Shatner.
much more at all.
I don't think it does either. Even for like the inspiration argument, like if I walked up to like 30 Zoomers and I asked them who's Captain Kirk, I think maybe two might know. Maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it just doesn't make sense to me as a move for the company, unless the reason is to prove that their thing works. And let's be honest, considering they already put 3 or 4 people in space once this year already, hopefully that means their system's validated and works. I know everything with aerospace is really wonky and things can go wrong very quickly and with not much time to react, or just freak nature accidents affect aerospace. I understand that. It just doesn't seem like, to me, and I hate putting it as like a risk reward type deal. But honestly, they really are not, to me, not getting much out of this. And in my opinion, there's more of a, okay, we need to make sure this mission goes well, because if it doesn't, not only are we gonna we could
Ugh,
potentially kill a man, we could kill one of the most famous people on the
yeah.
planet.
What if they? Oh,
Like
the
it, like
memes that.
and that's not to say that the people that went on the previous mission who were nobodies, or the SpaceX missions are nobodies, and that their deaths would not matter, because God forbid that happen with either of those companies, especially SpaceX, considering what they're doing. Oh my God, they would lose so much public support, funding, their contract. NASA or the government would either be revoked or put on the back burner. Um, it just doesn't seem like they're either Blue Origin's either being ambitious enough, or really thinking about using their technology effectively, or really trying to further their company goals.
Dude, imagine
So
though if William Shatner dies on that flight.
And this is why I keep saying, or why I had said earlier, that it seems like Jeff Bezos is doing the lawsuits in spite, and really is just a punching way above his pay grade.
so I checked it out, and they did announce this today that he would be on this flight. They announced this today that he would be on this flight. They announced the other 2 astronauts on September 27th. So, and the mission is tomorrow, or sorry, next week on the 12th.
Oh, it's next week. I thought they announced this for tomorrow. I read that wrong. All right. Well, we're still a week in advance.
But
Um,
yeah,
I-
so
it, to me,
become a
it, to me,
little.
it sounds like they're trying to sensationalize it. It really does.
I've become a
marketing.
little jaded in my old age, and my reaction has become imagine the memes if William Shatner dies in space.
Yikes.
Ugh,
I mean, like I said earlier,
I've
this
become a little
this
too
mission just
jaded.
seems, at least the way it seems like they're advertising this, because not that you would never hear of any of these companies doing a launch if you wanted to pay attention and stay informed. But the fact that all it took was William Shatner going to space for it, buzz about this mission to actually pick up, kind of tells me 2 things. One, people aren't really interested in Blue Origin, and 2, this was most definitely done on purpose, announcing it today, as opposed to when they announced the other people. Now
Astronauts.
that could be because of scheduling conflicts. That could be because they didn't know if the launch was actually going to happen, so they didn't want to like pencil William Shatner in, and it didn't happen. He's a celebrity. I don't know, but yeah, I'm going to talk in circles as long as I keep talking. It's
For
stupid.
sure.
Let's move forward.
Yeah, definitely. Well, anyway, our next article is a little bit of, I think an op-ed, more or less. It's rooted in kind of fact. But anyway, it's about an op-ed on Apple's fortress of secrecy is crumbling from the inside. And long story short, it goes into all of the details about the work from home fiasco and how it appears as though the Apple workforce is starting to lose their trust in the leadership of Apple. Um, Is there anything else you want to touch on that article, Grislow?
I think the big takeaways, there's a few. One is that it's amazing to see a shift in company culture so rapidly, and it seems in Apple's case to be due to Slack and the ability for what I suppose to be most a lot a large group of very isolated teams now having access to each other and communication to each other, reliable communication to each other, centralized communication to each other, um, company sanctioned communication to each other. And so it happens so quickly, and it's so interesting to see it kind of unravel and go from, oh, there's a few stories to, oh, this has been happening for a good amount of time. Whether it be the issues be the work from home stuff, whether it be legitimate discrimination. It also sort of, it's interesting to think that, and I'm trying to figure out how to put this just because I know a little bit on it, just because I've done a little research into it. When I was younger, I did like in our 8th grade, we had like or no, it was a speech in high school. And I had to learn about, or a paper, I had to write about someone. And I wrote about Steve Jobs, and I read his book. And in it details a very, a very regimented work environment. It's, you come to work, you're working on this. That's because we told you to do so. That's because I told you to do so. And that's what you're doing. It was very much top down, what the company wants is what the company is going to get, or what the top of the company wants is what the company is going to do and do to get whatever money, success, whatever. And it seems like that's come at the expense of the workforce. And because of Slack, that implementation, that's totally unraveling and changing, or at least it seems like it's going to have to change, specifically because I suppose now people have more power than before. And so if companies will just say, I'm going to fire you if you go and speak about this and about something that is a truly like crazy allegation, the employee can really just say, okay, flip on the bird, do that, get fired, and either get hired by another company or be successful in their own right because they just totally expose that company. It's weird. And I don't like it. I don't like it. That's really gross to me that I support in ways of purchasing their products and their services a company that has and implements these policies. That's disgusting. I don't like that. That needs to change, and not just Apple, at any company that does this. Suppressing your employees to do something because that's how you want to do it, and making them suffer, or legitimately discriminating people. That's not right. Hell, it's not even legal. You're not supposed to.
Right.
I think there's a slight legality. I'm not
But
100% sure, but
in closing, it really makes me embarrassed to be an Apple customer, and hear more of this stuff come out, and more people like they essentially saying yes and confirming it's true. And Apple just seems to either not care or try to suppress them further. And that to me is one of the scummiest things you could do.
I feel like
Calendar.
one of the things I've noticed, whether that be with my friends who have worked at very large tech companies or just companies that I've worked with in general, you really need to be fully bought in to whatever the company is doing. Like I don't want to. I feel like this is just a general work culture problem. You need to be back the company 100%. Everything they do, it's your bottom line, it's your paycheck. So that deal with it. That's how it is. And in my opinion, I don't think that's the right way to go about it because everybody's different. Everybody has their own opinion on stuff like that. Granted, that's why you have managers to make decisions, to do things, uh, stuff like that. But I feel like because of the work from home culture and the way that the workplace has shifted because of COVID, there's not as much of an ability to give a feedback in a anonymous, non-public way where you do have groups that start on Slack of people crapping on a company or something like that. It's just there's no how else do you communicate a problem without A, outing yourself that you're communicating a problem, or B, um, doing it without being passive aggressive or um, defamatory in a digital world. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, it's tricky. Uh, it's a lot of things. One of the things too is like it was talk about them shutting down like talking about salaries, which I thought was illegal. I thought you can't legally say you can't talk about your salary unless you're under an NDA or something, but that's I don't know.
I'm not sure about that one. From my
I thought
understanding, it's legal.
yeah, I thought it was illegal to
It is
ban
legal.
employees from talking. No, I thought
Or it
I
is
could
legal to talk about your salary.
yeah, yeah,
There.
yeah, yeah. All right, yeah, yeah. We're going at the same point in different directions.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's one of the things that was weird. I don't know how that interacts with the survey. I know California's been gung ho about going after certain companies for certain things. I think Blizzard's the most recent one that they've been going after, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. That's another
Let's
day.
avoid that one.
Well, that one's like, do you have an hour to run down the whole story to get context to talk about it in the first place?
Right.
It's been a whole saga. But regardless of that, it seems like they have a lot of strange, random things. A lot of these are personal stories, so it's kind of tougher to tell like how much of this is going on where, but you're never going to get the data from Apple themselves, obviously, because it's going to hurt Apple to release it.
And you hit it right in the head there too, but they don't want it released. I mean, one of those
Yeah.
personal stories was that there was a group trying to have an internal letter sent to get to just to ask questions about what happened in a certain situation, and that document was leaked, and that was a mistake. And at least the group that had written that letter did not intend for that to get out. And because that letter got out, action was taken. It's more swift than allegedly would have happened if it was legitimately internally handled.
Yeah.
So not only does it seem that Apple has a bad company culture, they also seem like they'll truly only act on something if it becomes public. And that's a pretty perverse, pervasive company culture.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I'd rather they not do that, but I don't know, I have a whole other take on a lot of stuff like this where I mean, there's a ton of companies using basically sweatshop labor and all that, basically like a ton of other stuff. So I don't
Yeah,
know,
I
calling
guess
out
you're right.
companies for like small things like this to me almost seems. I mean, obviously it's still an issue, but
Right. And you have a
Yeah.
really good point too. Even with Apple, think about the Foxconn factories or their India factories
yeah,
or
yeah,
stuff like that. People don't
Yeah.
realize that like it is incredibly sad and incredibly awful, but people take their own lives at these factories. And it's not like it's an out of the ordinary occurrence. It's relatively common, but it's just some of those things where
oh yeah,
you mentioned that, and there's so many other bigger issues to fry.
Yeah.
oh yeah, sure.
So
But I mean, obviously, all this is still issues, and
oh,
they're
what?
probably
Yes,
breaking laws we have established. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't tell. I
We're
do
not
know
lawyers. We're not
I'm
financial
mostly
advisors.
yeah. I am mostly sure you're allowed to talk about your salary. I'm pretty sure it's illegal to ban it, so it is legal to talk about it.
Right.
I think to
I'm
me the most
mostly sure about that.
I think to me the most damning thing though about I guess what the point you're trying to make, Fitz, is that they could have policies for their contractors or the companies that work with them or for them, but these are
Oh, good
policies and these
point.
are things for their own employees.
Good point. Yeah, like Foxconn is a contractor for Apple that manufactures their phones. This is internal to their design teams and their marketing teams and sales teams and whatever that run the company with the image that they have and not just the product.
And I'm not saying that lessens the issue with their suppliers or contractors any less. I'm just saying that it actually makes it more of a problem considering it's coming straight from the top and internally pervasive through the company.
Right, right.
I mean, for sure,
It's what makes a toxic company culture so bad.
Right.
Sure. I can't believe I'm gonna run a little bit of defense for Apple, but I
Wow.
don't know what the nature of, I know, right? I don't know what the nature of some of these, because there's situations where things have come up and employees get hired and they have the intent to cause trouble's the wrong word, but like try and force changes where you get into like, I think my best example of this is like the Spotify situation, where there is a ton of employees who got real mad that they're hosting Joe Rogan's podcast. When that's, at least to me, and I think to most people, that's a non-issue. It's like, yeah, he's a famous podcaster and they want him on this platform, but a bunch of employees tried to like organize new walkouts and all this stuff, and they're still furious at him.
I think the difference
This
is
probably
Yeah.
isn't that case, because I think one of these is like
it's
an
yeah.
air problem that was going on in one of their campuses was one of the stories, which seems radically different than that.
Yeah, you're not talking about an opinion problem. You're talking about legitimate either workplace safety concerns
yeah.
or again, just discrimination.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
and you had mentioned this earlier, Ryan, too. Like, yeah, you don't know how pervasive these issues are, or yeah, we
But
only
they're
get a
not
certain
going to
amount of
release the
stories.
data, obviously.
Yeah, but to me, I feel like this is pretty telling, especially with how much it seems like this Slack channel has blown up in terms of users in the last, I think it even said year. I don't know if you can find the numbers in that article, Fitz, about the growth of that Slack channel and just the use of it for that reason. And I suppose as playing devil's advocate, it could be people that enter and due to personal experience on a fraternity Slack,
2800.
joining channels just to meme and to just cause just like annoying chaos, or people that just genuinely like causing chaos and supplying the insurgency that are probably joining that Slack channel. I'm not going to discredit that.
I
But
2,800
can't
members
seem
were in
to
the
find it.
channel.
Oh, there it is.
I can. 2,800. I just don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say. It seems like it's, I mean, that's just normal though, like employee organizing to me mostly is what that seems like, which is pretty much always a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it's
Right.
because that kind of organizing too doesn't suffer from the sketchiness that unions can fall to.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of organizing usually has its purpose and ends up where it needs to go.
Right. Well, speaking of cool engineering and purpose, the next article we have for you is super cool.
Oh, that transition. Rough.
I mean,
There's one thing we know Fitz is good at, it's
We're
transitions.
we need to move on. We are already going an hour and 19 minutes here, so we have a little bit more to cover, and we should be able to hopefully hit these relatively quickly. Anyway, this is really cool. A surgically implanted brain stimulation device could help treat severe depression, not impression.
Depression.
I still have impressions stuck in my head from the Facebook
An
thing.
impression that
Uh,
decreases depression.
yeah, there you go. But anyway, a surgically implanted device that costs about $40,000 stimulates the brains at certain times during the day and would wind up reducing the effects of depression, which, yes,
I want to take the first take on this just
go
because,
ahead.
yeah. Even though I'm pretty aggressive with taking first takes sometimes, this I definitely would like to speak on because I'm pretty sure I've also mentioned this before on the podcast once or twice. As soon as I read this, the first thing I thought of was, and like he hasn't gotten enough free press on this article on this podcast. Oh my God, Elon Musk was right. Last year at one of his companies,
Neuralink.
Neuralink. Thank you. He unveiled essentially what is exactly this device, and just mentioned that it's possible that it could potentially be used for this exact purpose. To me, this just totally validates the technology,
Well-
Elon Musk's company, and just the method. And to that point, it was theorized at the time that this could be done, and it's very simplistic. This study is very simplistic, and that claim was bold, and that was a year ago in October, last October. A year later, we have a study showing that works. To me, this excites me more than anything else. That, and we talk about how technology can ruin people's lives all the time, take away all of their privacy, like today. This gives me hope that not only are we turning the corner on advances in medicine and treatments for diseases, but that technology can legitimately help and improve people's their lives. That it just validated everything he had said, that everyone last year had either laughed at, looked at him in, or just discredited him for.
Interesting.
And it personally, this article blew my balls off. That's the first article in a long
Great
time.
message.
Great
That's
message.
That's blown my mind. It's blown my mind. None of you feeling the same way? Am I really just that jacked up?
Great
personally?
message. I'm gonna be a stick in the mud for a second because that's one of my
Damn
many
it!
jobs
Raise a
on
roll
this
the
show.
fun, Ryan. Come on.
That's one of my roles on this show is to be a little bit of a stick in the mud.
Your role is essentially to be my perfect foil, which you are.
Why do you think I asked both of you guys to come on?
No, but it's less shocking to me because I've known about a similar technology for a long time. It's considered a more last resort thing, I guess, because it doesn't always work. But
They do
we've
mention
known for a
that.
we've known for a long time one of the treatments for depression is there's a way of stimulating your brain with electricity where I guess they just shave your head, they attach things to the right spot, and they might have to go in your skull. I can't remember. I can't quite remember, but basically this is a treatment that has existed for I can't give you the timeline. I want to say a decade where
So
they
it's new.
run yeah. It's not like it's old or anything. It's fairly new, but they run electricity through your brain, and sometimes that helps as like a long-term solution to some forms of depression. And this seems like the continuation of that, obviously. To like, I guess the next level where if that didn't fully fix it, but it fixed it for a little bit, it might be able to continually fix this.
Yeah, I definitely think this is something that's oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no. My last bit is I'm always sketched out by anything that gets put in someone's brain.
Okay, I expected that. Alrighty.
Yeah. Listen, I'll start bringing like a roll of tinfoil to my desk when we do this so I could put it on, but
there you go.
Yeah. That would be an appreciated prop.
it'd be funny.
That would be funny.
It'd be a good bit. But yeah.
It
is cool. I like it. I like the idea, I guess. If it's on a closed circuit.
Yeah, that's something that I find this fascinating. mainly not necessarily for the Neuralink reasons that you mentioned, Grislow. I just find this fascinating because I'm just hoping that throughout these projects, throughout these research projects, throughout this hardware that people are installing in their brain, we are starting to understand more about how the brain works. And
Yeah,
just the more we can understand about the thing that does our thoughts, the more we can understand about how we are the way we are, and how diseases happen, and how you develop your brains, and how all of this stuff that we can't understand right now, like as that becomes more and more clear, like think about where neurosurgery and any form of brain treatment has come in the last, like, I don't know, 50 years, 60 years, and how we're able to save people who have major strokes or major brain damage, and are able to, um, I wouldn't say live a normal life, but a better life than they would have lived without the treatments that we've been developing. And I'm hoping that as we continue to nurture this technology, we continue to see it grow. Um, the more we can gain insight into the brain and hopefully cure some of these awful, nasty diseases that take so many people.
Yeah, as well
So
as early detection for like Alzheimer's and those kind of stuff too.
true. Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
as long as this operates similarly to what they were speaking of in Neuralink presentation last year, and it seems very similar, especially with the hardware, the electrodes being inserted into a portion of their brain to incur electrical stimuli and effectively either suppress or change the electrical overall electrical signals in that area of the brain that cause those problems. Yeah, it seems very similar, and yeah, I'm hopeful, and it seems like it's hopeful that it can be used and applied in other situations, considering they were trying to do like epilepsy research and suppression with this,
Ah,
and found that it would actually prohibit or
stop.
lessen or stop completely the effects of um, depression,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's
and it makes me
interesting, man.
hopeful.
Yeah, for
For
sure.
now, it's a lot more expensive than the other form of it, which is I can't remember what it is. It's like I want to say it's like 2 weeks to a month worth of like electrotherapy,
Mm.
something like that. That's like the old way of doing it. I guess this is something you'd put in your head. I think it'd
Mhm.
be probably a more extreme situation to want that, but
Right. They said it's about $40,000.
yeah.
Well,
So
yeah,
that's what,
their
yeah,
unit, their version.
right. Well,
Yeah,
right.
I've said my piece.
There you go.
No,
Well,
I'll save my what do you call it?
uh-oh.
No, what's the word?
Tinfoil hat conspiracy theories.
No, not conspiracy theories. My warnings? I don't know. I'll come up with another word later.
Yeah, there you go. Another the next story we have for you, I'm very excited to go into this one. Ryan will appreciate it.
I know you
Grislow,
were very
Can I make the
excited.
same joke I was making earlier or no?
uh,
Probably not. We'll leave that joke off air.
Just go to
d-
town on this one. I know you're happy about it. I already done this last one.
No. The joke I'll leave off air.
no,
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
no, not
care.
the joke.
I don't
Well, I don't
care.
even know what the joke is, but
You do,
It's
trust me.
whatever.
Anyway, Japan broke the world record for the fastest internet speed ever, and they they transmitted 319 terabits per second. That's doubled the previous world record for the fastest internet speed of about 7.6 million times faster than the average internet speed in the US. This is enough speed to download nearly 80,000 movies in a second. Um, yeah, and they use fiber optic cables, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, it's fast, very fast. So yeah, I want to see this everywhere so bad.
I think that's still like 39 terabytes a second. It's a terabits,
Yeah, so
right? So
319
divide by 8.
divide by 8. Yeah,
Yeah, so I got like 39-ish, almost 40 terabytes a second, which
yeah,
is
terabytes per
oh
second.
That's like, I wonder what every book ever written. I wonder how many bytes that is.
Well, let's see. I'm gonna do some napkin math.
Because like the way I'm thinking of this right now is like you could transmit all of human knowledge in like 3 seconds flat. Like to put
Okay.
that into perspective.
It's got to be more than that.
So, just to put it into
Like
perspective,
much more.
the size of the print collections at the Library of Congress, like if you took all of the print books and put them into a drive, it would be 10 terabytes. That seems
Yeah, this is so
surprisingly
what this is
slow
saying.
or low.
No, with this, or at least what I'm reading, this is Quora, so you know, whatever, take it with a grain of salt. Let's see. The entire British Library, which is the largest in the world, is 14 terabytes.
So
If you cut out the illustrations.
So you could transmit the entirety of the library in roughly 2 seconds.
No, in like half a second.
300 divide, so that's like 40 terabytes a second, right?
Yeah, and
Or
that's
so,
14.
duh, I did my math wrong. That's why
So
I'm
in
bad
less
at
than 2
math.
seconds, that's the entire British Library. So let's just double it to be safe and say, yeah, you can transmit every book ever written every second. Excluding illustrations, obviously.
I see this article in the same light and reference frame as I do with things that are more my speed in terms of technology, for example, battery technology, more specifically, mobile battery technology. It's amazing that they're able to do this, and I'm not going to take that away from them at all. Let me just say that now. But
There it is.
and this is a big but. How much money does this system cost?
Yes.
Who's it available to?
Yes.
And when is it going to be actually available, if ever, to the masses or literally everyone on the planet that has an internet connection? Because to me, the way I look at this is this. It's amazing, but it's theory. And they've proven it in a very special circumstance. And it's strictly for research purposes.
Yeah.
Oh, I completely agree with you. It's
Practically,
It has no effect on the general population in the near future.
practically, you might be able to wire a supercomputer through the super high speed connections, but other than that, I don't have a use case, and I don't even know
It's
if you
like
need something
quantum
that
computing.
fast for it.
It's exactly like quantum computing, except quantum computing has had more runtime and is a bit more, I don't even know if accessible is the right word to use, but there's more time and research and examples of quantum computers. It's still not available to the masses, and there's still a good amount of time.
Probably has a better use case,
but
but
what are you saying? Supercomputers have a better use case than super
So-
internet?
no, quantum.
so also just to be
At
fair,
the very least, true randomness is a very good use case.
right?
I think they're two very. I think they're very separate.
Yeah. I'm just saying. I think that
Yeah.
one I can think of.
I think, and because they do two very different things, and
Yeah.
it's two different instances of tech, it's hard to. It's like apples to oranges, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, just quick side note, they transmitted this over 1,800 miles of cable. Granted, it was all in a spool sitting there, but it was 1,800 miles worth of fiber optic. So
That's still not bad.
Yeah.
That's
To me,
really long.
It's even more experimental. I mean, you can't get more controlled than I have an entire spool of 1,800. What was it?
1,800 miles.
Meters.
Miles.
1,800
Miles?
Miles.
Wait, hold on.
Yes.
I guess my next question,
here's
my
the
immediate
picture.
follow-up question is, how big is that spool and how big are the?
I mean, granted, this is probably only showing part of it, and also we have no frame of
18.
reference, but and probably looks like this is
Did someone make a typo?
So
it's
again, it's very
1,800
impressive on
miles.
paper and in a study, very impressive. But again, at least in terms of my take on this and my opinion on this, I to say it very simplistically, I don't care. I don't care until it has an impact on consumers and the general population.
here's their
Someone make a typo?
Piper or paper
Or
over a
Piper.
distance of 3,001 kilometers. So yeah, thereabouts.
That's so far.
Yes,
That's like from North Carolina to Indiana, 700. So that's most of the way to the from east to west coast. If you took a straight line, obviously, but
I
that's
mean,
insane.
yeah, that's
That's so far. I guess it
granted,
is fiber optics. It's the speed
yeah,
of light.
and like Grisla
Actually,
said, it's controlled.
that might
It's
be what's letting them do it. Actually, the length.
Incredibly, it's like you can't do much more to keep error and outside influence out of it.
Well, the length
Pretty
might
much
be what's.
Loctite.
Here's me spouting a random theory. That long distance might be what's letting them get that speed
It says in this
because
demonstration they use multiple bands.
Mhm.
Mm.
They use
Right, they
multiple
splice
different
them
bands.
in, they put them together at the end at the source.
Still,
or
here's
the,
my
the
theory,
receiver.
right?
No,
That
no,
kind
like
of distance.
like multiple
mean-
wavelengths and transmissions.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're doing it in.
Yes,
Yeah,
but they
yeah,
had to.
that's
they had
fine.
To,
Yeah.
they had to parse them out at the source and
Sure.
then put them together back at the
My
other end, the receiving end.
one of my theories, anyway, is that distance might be to their advantage, right?
Hmm.
Because it's a fiber optic, so you're encoding everything in light, which I think the charitable way to describe light is faster than we can imagine. That's the strong way of putting it, but it's very, very fast. So maybe by adding that extra length, they actually end up giving their transistors more time to react to like every pulse. That's a wild theory. I didn't read the paper, and
Yeah, I'm gonna have to read the paper in more detail, but it looks like
that's just a random theory.
it looks like what they're doing is they changed the arrangement in which they actually transmitted the data. They have more distinct fiber cross sections. It looks like.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
entirely sure though, but
From
yeah, there's
From what
four
I've
four
read-
fiber optic
Go ahead.
cores. So
yeah. Yeah, what they did was they essentially, instead of sending everything as is, they just pieced it apart, and in that way they were able to obtain these crazy fast transmission speeds. My question is, what's the parsing, or how long does the parsing out and the piecing back together portion of that happen? Because yeah, you could transfer the entire British Library and
Twice.
the Congressional
yeah, the
Library
Library
of
of Congress. There
Library
you
of
go.
Congress. Thank you. You could do it really quickly if that's if that's the method. But the piecing apart and putting together portions of all of that data, the two ends of this that they didn't mention, I think are more important.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that it's definitely one of those things where we will have to see about what comes from that too, and how if they're gonna do that. Like it's pretty cool. Like it's gonna take a while to process, but just
Like,
the
Ryan,
transmission.
that's when you introduce your crazy quantum computers.
No, yeah.
That's when that really comes in handy.
Kinda. I don't know.
I
It's
would say
that
more so than a standard computer. To process all that data.
Quantum isn't necessarily faster, is the thing. It just has more like states to work with.
Right.
It's very strange. Like quantum computer right now, I imagine, is like sending the entire computer science industry into like a headache,
Yes,
Yeah.
because
trying to figure out how to work with this new state.
instead of 0 and 1, you could have like 0.6 or 0.4. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it
I
throws
am
everything on its
trying to
head.
exactly trying to get that into like a workable format to create new programs and stuff. I imagine it's a nightmare. But true randomness is great.
Right.
That's what's really cool, I think, about it is just true randomness.
Well,
I don't know if you talk to anyone on the Tesla software team that deals with autopilot. True randomness is not their best friend.
well,
Well, yeah, I'm not for that, but for things like, say, data encryption and decryption, it's really cool to have that because it's. I don't want to go into the long explanation, but computers don't generate random numbers. They're not capable of it.
right. Well, anyway, you know what else phones aren't capable of? Save
What's that?
Love.
being anonymous. And
Oh.
a new study revealed that iPhones aren't as private as you think. Once again, somewhat of an over sensationalized headline. But long story short,
I think
there
the
was a
subhead is probably the better
yeah, the subheader is
description
Yeah.
from
of it.
Yeah.
Android phones collect more data by volume, but iPhones collect more types of data that a new study finds. So basically, what wound up happening is some researchers, I forget where they were at. It said Trinity University, I believe, um, basically set up what's called a man in the middle attack. And what they do with that is they basically take a phone and a laptop, run a software called Wireshark on that laptop. And what they do is they simulate as if the laptop is a Wi Fi network. So they connect the phone to the Wi Fi network and basically record any of the traffic that comes from the phone going out through the laptop. So, what they did with this study is they basically figured out hey, Android phones collect a lot more data by volume, but iPhones collect a lot more data by data type. So, excuse me. It says even when iPhone users stayed logged out of their Apple account, the iPhone sent identifying cookies to iCloud, Siri, the iTunes Store, Apple's analytics servers while the phone was idle. It sent information about nearby devices sharing the same Wi Fi network as well, which I find this
Hmm.
really interesting. On Android, they do the same thing. Excuse me. Um, but every like 20 minutes, basically. Um, iPhones do this with or without you being logged in. Same thing with Android. But the thing that I found interesting is they were very similar in what was coming back and forth between the datas. The Apple phones generally had more stuff. They went a little bit more with that.
More types.
Exactly, more types, more information on the devices that were coming through, other devices on your network, all of the stuff like that. But when the researchers tried to approach Apple on it, um, they didn't reply. So, um,
Yeah.
The
That
funny part
that
is it says Google replied on Apple's behalf.
yeah.
I
No,
didn't
literally, it
notice that.
says Google
silly
said
thing.
your estimates are incorrect because you're not taking into account data returned to the phone from their servers, Apple servers.
Hmm.
That was Google's statement on Apple's behalf, which was strange.
Yeah. That is strange. I didn't see that they responded on their behalf, but I did see that
Not
they didn't respond outright.
just to
Um,
correct myself real quick, on behalf, probably not the best wording of it. Commented on the discrepancies between the amount is a
Okay.
better way of
Sure.
wording that.
Sure. To be honest with you, my first thought when I hear that Apple's sending more types of data than Androids and that it's tied to the user and people in the network, I have a feeling it's got to do specifically with Apple and their ecosystem of products that
Ooh.
they create for that
Probably.
ecosystem, and that it has to talk to each other. Things like Find My iPhone, right, are always on and enabled, and they work. If your phone gets pinged, It turns on, has a connection. That's my first. And not to mention that there are a lot of families that have shared accounts, things like that. And because it's like a big tied ecosystem, that's why you're seeing a lot of that. I'm not trying to defend Apple. I'm just trying to give a reason potentially why. That was my first thought.
Yeah,
And I don't know if they don't want to comment on it because they don't want to comment on how iCloud works, especially with there being a lot of hot discussion recently about privacy with iCloud and the CSAM stuff. So I wonder if they didn't want to even get into that because of the CSAM pushback. But that was my first initial reaction after hearing that. The data that the
My
research
guess
found.
on why they didn't comment is just because two reasons. One, anything you say can and will be used against you.
Yeah.
And two, just by commenting on it, you kind of blow up the story a little more.
right.
I don't find it terribly surprising.
Yeah, not at all.
I'm
No.
not hugely surprised Apple collects a decent chunk of data on their users. We've all known Google does it for years. Part of that is though because Android's an open source system mostly.
Right.
I think that they might have closed off a couple things recently just because of stuff Google's done. I'm not quite sure on that. I don't spend all my time looking at the Android APK and all that. But yeah, to me, I don't know. This justifies stuff that I've said for a while, which probably should make me take a second look at this anyway. But I'm not surprised that they collect just about as much. I don't know if Apple shares it as much as Google does, or if they keep it for their own like personal uses, like recommending apps and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I
I'm
mean,
not
who
their
knows?
big privacy push is not to let other people access your data,
Yeah.
even if they have access to it.
I may do
Sure.
one of those like a data dump, like one of the ones that you could get because of GDPR. Do one of those data dumps from like Apple or Google or something like that, and see what they got. Maybe I'll do that. Who knows? But
Yeah.
You just use a lot of words and acronyms that I don't understand. But if it's in the name of research in this podcast, in the name of Tech Talk Nation, you go for it, Fitz. You do that.
alrighty, thank you. Yeah,
Go
basically
you.
because of the European laws, the manufacturers and these companies have to give you all of the data they have on you. In something that you could get it pretty easily. So who knows? Maybe we can see what
I
Apple's
mean, just
login.
speaking of that though, next week we might be able. We'll see if the EU has their USB-C
Oh, that's
enforcement going
right.
through or not. But that's a next week story. I don't think they've passed anything
Is
yet.
I thought that was already official.
Did that get passed?
I thought that I didn't realize. When I read the article and I looked at the news, I was under the impression that it was either going to pass or it already did pass, and I could be wrong about one or both of those things.
I know they proposed it. I don't know if they passed it.
Uh,
And I had to do the same research for when I was looking at the
it was a
UK's
proposal.
mandate on electrical vehicle chargers in new businesses and homes.
They definitely. I know they proposed it about 11 days ago,
Yeah, that
which is actually. We're kind of getting off the topic here. I don't know if we want to switch over to this topic or not, but
but we'll keep
this wasn't in our original topic.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But one
Yeah,
thing.
back to the topic at hand. Or next.
The
whatever.
next we'll go to our last topic for tonight. So you may
Yes.
this is going to be very fun.
Oh, I remember my first take on this.
Ryan, you and I can just smile. We can end the podcast happy and not arguing.
Okay, but much like, how people choose to interact with content on Facebook, I like being mad.
Oh
All
boy.
right, Fitz,
Oh jeez. Okay.
intro it,
So
please. I can't have one little bit of happiness.
No.
Ugh.
ah jeez. Anyway, the last article we have for you tonight, Grislow sent this one in, and I am so happy because we are all huge college football fans. We are all huge Boston Dynamics fans. We are all huge Spot Robot fans. What
And
happens?
engineering fans.
And engineering fans. What happens when you combine all three? You get one heck of a halftime show. So, good old Mizzou Engineering here posted a video of Spot, the robot dog, performing at halftime at their game last weekend.
Can you blow it up?
Here,
Full screen?
let me blow that up here. Here, let's see. This should work.
Oh, this is just.
Yeah, he's going to town, little guy. You go.
He's moonwalking. He can't even moonwalk.
There you go.
I love this.
Well-
I love this. It's a good feel good story.
It's a good feel good
and-
story.
I love it. Fitz, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I have a point that I will drive home a little later. So, what's your guys' takes on this? What do you think?
Ryan, take it down before I pull it back up. I'll let
Take
you.
what down? Oh, absolutely.
The mood. 'Cause I know you're gonna
perfect.
kill it.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm here for. This is a gross waste of taxpayer money and of tuition money.
But
That was my
robot
first take.
robot
I
dog
wanna
get
can
that.
know if that's a
moonwalk.
fact, though.
I don't know if it is a fact. That's what I was actually just
well-
looking into where they got the dog from.
Let me see.
Because if they just
I
had
had
the
to do some
dog,
research on that as well, by the way. I don't know if it was a university purchased, or if it was a unit that Boston Dynamics gave them. What I do know is that, well, I guess we didn't mention this yet, but
Okay, it's,
the Mizzou engineering department was essentially working on this all semester, and they've been coding the robot with steps and dance moves and things like that. So they've been working on this since whatever middle of August. So this wasn't like a recent, like last 3 weeks thing.
so
They've had it for a while.
it does say in one of the articles the name Spot is a production name for all 4 of the robots on MU's campus. So Mizzo has 4 of them, and
So they own it.
yeah. and
sure.
the-
My question is,
or wait, that's
Wait,
sorry,
did you say-
sorry, that's
boy,
that's
hold
one.
on. Pronounce that school again.
I'm not going to now. But Mizzou, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I was like, I think my Chicago came out there. Anyway, it says this article is kind of confusing. It says the name Spot is a production name for all 4 of Boston Dynamics robots on the MU campus. The other 3 robots are owned by the power company Ameren, which operates a nuclear power plant nearby. Like that's
They must own some as a company, as a
Some-
university.
yeah,
It's a
some-
product just like iPhone, right?
yeah, exactly. So
Or Pixel.
interesting. Yeah, that's
There's two that I sent, by the way. You must be looking at the more recent one. There's one from before the game,
that was before.
where they just talked about. That has the tweet in it about the video.
No, the old one from October 1st, and then you sent me the one on October 3rd. Here,
Yeah,
there's one on
yeah,
Mashable from October 3rd. Yeah.
And that is it has the video in it, and I thought it kind of made it more clear that they owned it, maybe or not.
No,
Maybe
unfortunately.
maybe it made it a little more ambiguous.
if this was purchased by the engineering school for the point of education, and someone just had a fun idea and they loaned it out for a day, I'm fine. If this was purchased for them to use at the halftime show another purpose, I'm furious.
I can get behind that
If it was-
sentiment.
If it was a loaner, fine. I'm good with that, you know.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm gonna take the exact opposite stance here.
Go
And
for it.
this is exactly what I'm gonna say. And I have a good amount of an audience here that I can pull that can help me make my point here.
Uh-oh.
It's no
You
surprise,
act like
and
I
it's been
care
very
what other
public
people
that we attended or currently attend a certain university in Indiana, and I think I was actually just talking about this earlier yesterday, Fitz, when we were back at homecoming on campus. The university gets a ton of money from the state government to fund itself. If it has enough money to fund itself, it can use that money and any other grant money towards anything they want. And I don't know this financial situation of Mizzou. That can certainly speak for Purdue, and I can say this. They could have funded 100 spot robots with all the projects that they have going on right now. Infrastructure projects, building projects. Things that I personally don't think they need. A 1 point something or more $1 million extra arch in the front on the other side of campus, just because? Not necessary, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
What's
not
more necessary
necessary.
than you would be housing students.
Well, for
Daddy Daniels, if you're watching this, and I don't know if you are, I'm sorry, but
this is
making my point, driving it home though, if Mizzou operates the same way as Purdue and they have money to spend, why not spend it? I think, and I'll let you guys prove me wrong. I think putting it towards something like this is much better than putting it towards some pointless infrastructure projects or other things they could put their money towards, right?
I'm going to take your point a
I'll go
step
10
further.
steps. I'll go 10 steps back from where you guys are. Don't worry.
Okay.
I want to hear both of these because I'm
I'm about to invoke Romania. That's how this is about to work.
Uh-oh.
Get ready for it.
Who's going first?
No, he's going first.
Okay. I'll go one step
I'm okay with
forward
being outnumbered.
and say, at that point, why don't you just build your own build your own hardware like a real engineering school would?
Because
Okay,
Boston
but
Dynamics is part of
that would
MIT,
have an
of course,
educational
come out of its own
purpose.
company. So like
I could justify that though. That would have an educational purpose
Correct.
involving students in that.
Yes.
That has a purpose. He's
I
gone
will-
the complete discretionary route.
I will one up you by saying why reinvent the wheel.
Why
Not to mention they are the point of these robots is also trying to figure out what they can do, and this is in effect like a case study. So I understand there's definitely a benefit there because they had to learn how to code it and make it move a certain way. Like they had to position. They also had to figure out how to position people in the field around a robot who knew exactly where he was going and what he was where it knew where it was going and what it was doing.
It's moonwalking in the middle of a field. Like,
yeah, I know, it's amazing.
Like, okay, I understand. Like, yes, that's cool and everything, but at a point, what becomes the educational value of reinventing the wheel? Let's design a robot that can moonwalk on the 50-yard line of the football
missed his
stadium.
point. He's gone complete discretionary already.
Okay.
No. The engineering school was the students who were recognized, who did the help. They worked on this.
Correct.
It wasn't like they hired Boston Dynamics to do this for them. They took the robot and the hardware and the software and made something of it. I love it.
With my
You've already gone so far though that I have plenty of room to work.
One last point.
Okay.
My last point on this is, from my understanding, based on several Michael Reeves videos of how Spot works, is basically all of the movements and all of the actions that a Spot can take are pre-programmed into a Python API that they could just reference and create a script off of. My point is, if they made their own hardware, they could get the full experience of doing everything from doing the physics calculations to making a machine that will literally moonwalk, rather than just telling a machine that already knows how to do it.
Great word.
So
doing
at the same time, though, I mean,
kinematics to get it to move.
I feel like that invalidates a lot of things, like, and in effect, projects that university students take on, and in effect also says unless you do something fully by yourself and not use any outside technology, you fabricate everything yourself, you're not creating a worthwhile.
Oh no,
project.
there's a full.
I don't know if I get behind that.
There's a huge benefit to doing things yourself, but it's one of those things where, I mean, I could see their point. Where is it fiscally responsible? Is it financially responsible? Is it educationally responsible to do these things by itself? Like, do these things from the ground up? But if it's just an excuse for them to get a robot, like, I don't know. Like,
I mean, to your point of a university that knows what they're doing to make their own thing. I'm not trying to talk down here. Let me be very clear. But this didn't come out of a university with
Oh
a
no.
top 10, 11, 12 ranked nationally program.
Hey, I'm not detracting from the fact at all. It was cool as heck to see. That is for
But to that
sure.
point, yes, it's amazing. That's awesome. Now, please ruin the fun, Ryan.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for.
Oh
You've gone
boy.
you just went full discretionary with like, oh yeah, they should buy 10 of these. No,
Well, I didn't say they should buy more.
you said I'd be fine if they bought 10 of them. That's a direct quote from you, not 10 minutes ago.
I'm not sure if that was confused with we could
An
buy 10 of
elephant
them
never
and have the
forgets.
money to. But,
Here's my
okay.
whole thing, right? College is stupid expensive, and it really shouldn't be, and it really doesn't have to be. And it's unnecessary expenditures like this that cause those types of things. It's like the constant building of needless buildings. We don't need these arches everywhere. We don't need most of the stuff that gets built on a college campus. That's why things are so stupidly expensive. If you look at another country, like for example, Romania, that's where I was getting at that. Because it's a long story. I used to play video games with the Romanian guy. Yeah, I talked about him with this a couple times. When you look at a school there is dirt cheap. It's because they have classrooms, and then they have whatever labs are necessary, and that's it. They don't have anything else. That's all they have. They have the necessary things for an education. And you pay more if you have to use more. So like medical students pay more because they need access to labs. They need access to cadavers when they're learning like how bodies work. And I imagine engineering people would pay more as well to have access to like expensive electrical pieces and stuff like that. It's the minimum of what you need to have an education, and it makes education affordable. And it's unnecessary expenditures of money on arches, on 4 dogs for a halftime show. All that stuff makes money go way up, and it makes college so expensive. And money that gets made off college football never gets passed back to like the college to make it cheaper for the students.
I would like to counter with 1 or 2 points. As an example, Purdue has froze their tuition now for an entire decade.
Sure.
10 years. So the cost to the students has not gone up. Also, speaking, and you're an engineer as well, we have extra costs as well as the other specialized majors, pro flight, whatever, that are associated with our education that other students do not pay, but we have to because we need specific resources, labs, equipment, whatever. So we do that. There are universities that already do that in the United States. Maybe not all of them, but they already do that. I also am not sure if it's fair to compare universities in 2 different countries.
It's not. That's not why it's not completely fair. That's why I didn't bring actual cost into it. I was speaking more abstractly because different value.
Because there's a lot
But
of
I can tell you
that work itself into your end price.
Yeah,
for
sure.
tuition.
Listen, I'm very much a bare bones person. A lot of the stuff that colleges end up investing in and spending money on, to me, looks like a complete waste. And like, yes, tuition is frozen, but it is frozen above 40 grand a year. Like, it's not like it's a trivial amount of money. It's not like it's frozen at like 10 grand a year. It's frozen at 40. A little over 20 grand a semester.
You sure it's probably not more closer to,
It
and this would be for in-state students, but like
Might be 38.
30 a year?
No, for in-state students, like 12.
Yeah, it's relatively affordable for an in-state student who's staying not on campus. It's what I would consider relatively affordable.
Yeah, we have a skewed perception of everything too, because we all studied out of state.
Sure, but they also have what do you call it? Quotas for out-of-state students to be able to fund the university properly.
And I mean, the other thing too, though, it was part of my argument, which I think needs to be explained maybe, is that we either get we get the money to use, or it just doesn't get put
Right.
to anything.
Don't use
So
it. then
so in effect, they do need to come up with ways to spend the money. And yes, there are
no,
projects
they
that they
shouldn't.
take on.
They shouldn't spend the money. They should hold on to it, or they should not spend it at all. So the
That's-
taxpayer
that's
doesn't have
the-
to float that bill.
Right.
That's the
Hold on
problem.
though, but there are things that they need to do. And in my specific example, Purdue, and it's not a secret, they need more student housing. They don't need to redo what they have right now. They might need to, but they need more. Like that's just the bottom dollar. So the fact that they're putting up and before working on housing have been making fluff projects and beautifying campus is all great. That doesn't help.
No,
Um,
it's not.
but
great. They
again,
should just
if
be
you
spending
use
it
it or
on.
they lose it. And so what else are they gonna do? I'm not
Right.
I'm not entirely defending them, I suppose. But that's just how that works. And and to your point, or to your argument you made, and you already admitted this.
Lose it.
I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if you're sure if that's especially the case with the Romanian school or system of schools you're thinking of, where they have this big amount of funding, they use it or they lose it, and they
I can
either
tell you
don't
that
use
I can
it
tell you that
or
it's
they
state
use it
funded.
very sparingly.
I can tell you it's state funded. They have the way it works is literally you have classrooms and offices, and that's it. You have the bare and labs and all that stuff too. You have the bare bones of what you need to actually give someone an education.
Well, gentlemen, I am sure we could talk about this for hours on end.
And I can.
But
Yeah.
Listen,
I
I,
want-
enjoy
Happy.
arguing.
Oh, why
I
you
could
make
be
me
here
do
all
that?
night.
I
I
just-
love.
I am going
arguing.
to- I'm going to end on a happy
Happiness
note
is
today.
overrated.
We're gonna
Robot moonwalk.
watch
Happiness
that.
is overrated.
We're gonna watch that again. That was
Can
fun.
we watch that again? Thank you. That's
Like, look
that's
at it.
Echo.
It's just
Look at
going.
him. Look at it. He's just.
I
He
mean,
does a little booty shake. He does a little shimmy,
there he goes. Yeah, look at him. He's going to town.
and then he just spurts around and moonwalks. Ah, Brian, answer me this. How could you watch this video, not twice over, and just have a negative view? Let's be positive. This is so cool. Like, as an engineering student yourself, by the way, I think this is very interesting and encouraging to see that universities are trying to give their students more exposure to new technology and new products. Not every university has a spot. They're hard to get and they're very expensive. So the fact that one engineering school was able to get a hold of one and do something really neat with it, I think is pretty cool. And by the way, since we haven't really figured the answer out, who's to say that they bought it for this purpose, but they have it and now they can use it for other things?
Answer your question, how I could not be happy.
The two other possibilities where they've had it and now for a bit, and now this is the purpose at this point in time, or they truly did buy it for this one opportunity, and that's it.
How can I be unhappy? 4 simple words: $28 trillion in debt.
Alrighty, so
There's not 2 more now.
alrighty. Well, with that, we hope you had a wonderful night tonight. We had fun talking about some of the most recent tech news. Make sure to follow us on our social media with the escapades at Facebook today. You know, you can't fully trust Facebook or Instagram. So follow our Twitter at Tech Talk Nation with an S. And
Yes, that's
there we
right.
go. Yes. So follow us on Twitter. And when Facebook decides to work again, maybe take a look at us on one of those, unless they go down again. So with that, we hope you have a wonderful night tonight and join us next week for more Tech Talk Nation. Have a good one, guys.
Bye, everyone.
I'll be just as argumentative every week.
Thank you for listening to Tech Talk Nation. Tune in next week for more discussion on the latest in tech.